feel like the gravitational pull into just resting in the wholeness, you know.
Yeah, I was
Um,
at at one point, I had the whole I don't know if this happens to you ever when you're, like, meditating or, going inward, and then
mm,
everything does, like, the spin, like, the whole room is just going,
mm,
I always feel like, "Okay, are we shifting timelines right now? Because that's what it feels like."
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I just feel the connection come in through for me, through the like vertical axis and down through the body mind, and some sort of like geometric imagery that starts to kind of come in that seems to correlate to the sensations, uh, and the feeling of almost like, for me it's like we are both joined, but there I can almost like feel it's like here we still seem to play in the separation expression, you know, but like I feel it as like up above where our minds sort of link into like almost like a certain point, and then that's like the oneness. And I suppose that's all metaphorical in a sense, but it's how I think of it anyway here.
Yeah, no, I think it's helpful to talk about that because I don't actually usually hear people talk about that, like,
Yeah.
meeting. Um, for me, it plays out like, I feel this is just in my connecting with another, right? It's
Mhm.
almost like energetic, like, tentacles that just want to sort of
Mm.
meet and then so there's just a lot of, like, energetic unfolding and,
Mhm.
like, smoke.
Uh-huh. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, because I often think of that, the interrelationship of consciousness as like threads and nodes and threads, threads and nodes. That's like one layer, which I would call like the astral. It's kind of like the astral structure of reality is nodes and threads. Wherever two threads meet is a node. Yeah.
Right. Beautiful, which is also represented, right, in quantum physics and, like, string theory, and it's
Mm.
all just these, like, energetic strings that meet and excite each other, which is
Mm.
really a beautiful metaphor for, exactly the
Mm.
2 points of consciousness being human beings, right,
Yeah.
meeting together and why it's,
Mm.
um important or meaningful for us to do that, right? Because
Mhm.
we sort of excite those strings, like within,
Yeah.
more expression and more fullness.
Mm.
Because, right, I think we're essentially like, what is the human, but a bunch of sort of templates that may show up sort of like the strings of a guitar, right?
Mm.
That are just
Mm.
being plucked and vibrating and playing your own unique
Mm.
song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that resonance maybe lights up little different areas in another. And sometimes it's areas we're familiar with, but sometimes it's little areas that I'm pointing to the body, but it's not really like that, but like areas of experience that we're not as familiar with. And that's one of the gifts that we bring to each other is showing each other new areas of experiencing, right?
Yeah, well, beautiful. And that's like uncovering. That's why it's so like powerful in shadow work. Because it's
Mm,
the you might and the idea is you're going to run
mm,
into people, right, that yeah, excite parts of you that are scary,
mm,
unknown.
mm-hmm.
And the call is to explore that.
Yeah. Allow that allow that to happen.
Mhm.
Yeah. For me, the confidence in that sense is that, uh, it's like connecting to wholeness brings a deeper confidence that, like, that can be walked through in a way that's, you know, mutually beneficial and also almost, like, exciting in a way, or, uh, even pleasant at times. I mean, it depends, but I think as we get more and more skillful with it, it becomes where we know the process, and then we can come together in these collaborations, and it can be like, it's like when you're going on a hike, it's exciting to have little challenges crop up here and there because you have this confidence that you have what it takes to step through it and come out the other side, which is fun and exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. It can become more playful,
Mm-hmm.
but there's that element of like having to get out there and practice a bit, and it
Mm.
may be a little bit fumbled.
Mm.
And even like there are ways that like you're not going to meet eye to eye, things that like don't resonate.
Mm.
That's okay. Those moments are teaching you things about
Mm.
yourself, and that's valuable too.
Yeah.
And, you know, coming with the understanding, right? That and having dropped a lot of the conditioning. And so we're not bringing the same expectations to the relationship, at least
Yeah.
intend to, right?
Yeah.
It's not that, you know, I want to force you into a role or bring on these conditionings around what it means, like all these expectations around meeting. Like this means, that, you know, all this baggage that comes with meeting someone, right? The commitment,
Mm.
um,
Mm.
or that if I put in so much effort, right, then it has to look like this for me,
Yeah.
Well, it's just
Mm.
dropping all of the conditioning, dropping all of the expectation, and just showing up as yourself
Mm.
and seeing how that unfolds. And if anything, playing with new ideas, like ideas of human design and looking
Mm.
at those structures and
Mm.
seeing how do we mesh in that way. I mean, there's new ways to look at these
Mm.
relationships. It's an opportunity. Not only do we have the technology for it, right, but we now have the mindsets to meet
Mm.
this way and to drop the roles.
Mm.
Because
Yeah.
for me, there's that mother role, the
Mm.
wife role that's like shuts me off from society and wants to, you know what I mean, kind of
Mm.
limit what I'm allowed to do.
Mm.
The roles that we place on others and relationships, like what does a friendship mean? What does a business partnership mean? What
Mm.
does romantic connection mean? These are all conditioning. All of that is conditioning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Yeah, like when there's an expectation to get something out of it, basically. And they're so subtle, like often so deeply conditioned from the past before we even realize that they were kind of like going in. So oftentimes we're just discovering layers of conditioning that we didn't even realize were there. And sometimes we can also have this idea like, oh, I'm so far beyond that kind of conditioning because we can see it intellectually, but then we hit a deep layer where it's like it's patterned in quite into the emotional, into the body, mind, like into the lower chakras, as you might say. And so you're just not actually like on the mind level, you're like a enlightened, you understand that the roles don't matter, but it's like, let's see what the emotional reaction and reactivity actually is saying. Yeah.
yeah, no, that's really good. It's like bring it into the world. And that's why it's so important to get out there and
Mm.
start like living the teachings. Because
Mm.
it's one thing to have that like philosophical understanding, and it's another thing to embody it. It's one thing
Yeah.
to have the knowledge, it's another thing to have the wisdom. And you're
Mm.
not going to have the wisdom until you're out there practicing this.
Mm.
Because I'm running into it, I see it in myself, how the conditioning still shows up here and there,
Mm-hmm.
how it shows up in how I relate to others. And it's the actual, like, in the 3D working through it with people that where it sets into your bones and you're like living from that intentional conscious space.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I know here there was a lot of time spent of like you were talking about like undoing the expectations, which sometimes looked like just having very dull interactive experiences where nothing was coming out of it and like becoming okay with that in a way. And I'm not saying that's like the goal, but it's like it was an undoing of expectations. Like I can show up and just be like this. And so I don't know, it's like I can show up in ways that I wouldn't think are okay and I can be okay with it. And if I'm okay with it, that's all that actually really matters at the end of the day. Then from that freedom, we can start to explore like skillful relating and, like that, but without the pressure of like, if I do it wrong or, because we're going to do it wrong. We're going to do it wrong in every possible conceivable way.
Yes, beautiful. And you don't have to wait until, you're some idea of perfect to go out and
Yeah.
actually like try and have those experiences and see how they play out. Like that's the idea.
Mm. Yeah, that's the commitment to like forgiveness, what I would call forgiveness, which is like no matter what happens, I've already, in a sense, forgiven it, meaning I've seen the peace that underlies it. I've seen the unchangeable nature of myself that underlies it all. So even though if it may feel quite hard in the moment, but it's like I'm not gonna build off of that and call it a story and then, create a war or a drama out of it. I'm gonna let it go, I'm gonna release that experience.
Yeah, and that's a
Mm,
big part of this, I think, is grace to
mm,
give it to ourselves and to give it to others in our meetings. So,
mm,
not an expectation on ourselves to show up as some perfect, representation, and not expecting the other person to do that either. So, yeah, you can have meetings that are awkward and don't necessarily flow that well, you don't have to attach a whole story to that. But I think the major idea here is that we are working on our conditioning, that we've done enough healing on our trauma,
mm,
like on the nervous system, to where you can actually feel now and sense out a lot of these like energetic subtleties around like, am I drawn to this person?
mm,
Um, does this person actually like I don't resonate with them at all. And
mm,
I don't feel good in my body when I'm around them.
mm,
And regardless of what society says about, or, whatever conditioning, right? I keep throwing
mm,
society, but whatever
mm.
conditions out there, what other people tell you, or how
Yeah.
you're supposed to continue to meet this person, right? No matter how it feels in your body.
Mm,
No, we're done with that, right?
mm,
Listening to our body when it's saying,
mm,
I'm drawn to this person and I'm sort of maybe repelled. And it doesn't mean like
mm.
anything bad or, it's not telling a negative story about this or
Yeah.
telling them. It's just honoring yourself
Mm,
and those connections that really you are meant to form because
mm.
you did actually set that up for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a maturation of like just because I'm not drawn to something, I don't have to create a huge justification about what's wrong with it or why I'm not aligned with that. And yeah, it's just that you're not currently being drawn there, but in the future you may. And also, it's like that fluidity that allows for the intelligent guidance of the moment. And it's like where you are is where you're meant to be, and that connection of because what's good for you in truth, in essence, is what's good for the whole. That's the what's good for here is good for the whole. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've even noticed it in those some of those relationships that I was holding on to, a death grip on
Mm,
those relationship. I will make this work.
yeah.
I mean, in the release, we are all better off, you know. But that's
Mm,
right, getting into the flow of life is yeah, letting go of the things that aren't working for you and don't feel good.
Yeah.
Moving towards the things that feel good, they might be scary.
Mm,
There might be a lot of messaging telling you, don't do that. Right? And
mm,
think about, is that like, where is that coming from?
mm,
Is it conditioning? Like,
mm,
just feel into, what do I want? What am I really gravitating towards?
mm.
Because there's a divine intelligence to that.
Yeah. What do I want is a deep question because at first it will flush up all these, worldly desires, and it's good to see those like those are there, they're kind of programmed in, and it's good to see that. But also as you start to see those desires, often that inquiry leads you to see that the truth of what you desire is actually deeper than those things, and it's like an amazing discovery. It's like in the heart of myself I actually do desire the deepest truth, and it's not something you can manipulate. It's just like that is the truth. Like you actually really do desire the deepest truth, uh, which is an amazing discovery.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's beautiful because it is layered like that. It's underneath all that
Hmm.
condition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with the other desires either, and so looking at them helps to bring that innocence forward. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, beautiful. I think that's just a good point to make because,
Mm,
right, that has been conditioned into us. And so have grace
mm,
for yourself and for others, right? Because that has been
mm,
really used against the human, and it's a whole system of oppression.
mm,
We can get into that another time. I feel like that's for another time.
mhm,
But I would like to talk about that,
mm,
because all we have to do is not buy into that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, it's like the profound truth. Like I was seeing it even at the end of my meditation yesterday. This thought came in, like, I want to get up now. I want to go do this thing. And that's a fine thought, but it brings a feeling with it of like, like like this, like I want to go. But then I ask, like, what do I really want right now? And then it's like it arises. It's like I want to just be right here. And it's so simple. It's not, I'm not doing that, but it's a deeper desire, and it nullifies that other thought of desiring to get up and go on. Not that you have to sit in meditation for longer than you want to. No, like eventually I did want to get up. I really did, but it's like it just like neutralizes into a bigger field of desire. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and that even like plays out in how we show up in the world and how there, right? There's
Mm,
those conditioned desires for
mm,
money or popularity or fame and success, right? But
yeah.
what's underneath that is a desire for love and connection and
Hmm.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's just reminding me too of another experience that was very similar. It's like being with other people and then feeling somewhat oppressed by their desires. And then again, I asked, like, what do I really want here? And then it's like this trust that, like, all of our desires are taken care of. Everyone can get what they want, and it's not up to me. It's just the way the system works. It's the way consciousness works. So it's just like a deeper relaxation again. It's like I'm getting what I want right now. That's the deeper truth. You know, like I'm getting what I want. This is it.
Yes. And how often is what you truly want actually just right there and within immediate access? And so that's where you do want to check yourself and say, okay, like, right, so if I'm desiring, what's coming up for me is all the stuff around money.
Mm,
Well, why is that showing up, right? It's because I want to have like access because I want to eventually a lot of it, when you get really down to the core and center, it's
hmm.
about love and connection and acceptance, right?
Yeah.
And guess what? You don't need money for that,
Mm,
okay? don't need the, wild, impressive occupation. You don't need the huge following. You
Mm.
don't like none of that. Remember, that's what's been conditioned into you.
Yeah.
So you don't wait for those things to feel like they're all in place for you before you go after
Mm.
what you really desire. You know, that's the like that's a trick. That whole thing is a trick.
Mm.
It is it cannot be sated,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's a hunger that cannot be filled, cannot
That's
be.
it. Yeah, that's it. And I mean, the future world, like the new world, like the world that we all want, comes from our own sense of fulfillment. I mean, that's the only place it can come from. So we have to come home to that first. And then I've also found that those desires that pop up as symbols, like maybe it's a relationship, maybe it's a certain role, like an impressive role, those are things that come up here. That within, contained within that idea is the very energy that you want, and you're actually separating it out from yourself into the image and saying, I don't have it, I don't have it, I don't have it, it's there.
Mhm.
But we can actually reverse that and open it up. It's not there, I created that, it's in me. I'm creating that image, and that means that I have that energy that I want, and I don't need to send it out into something out there, something else. Yeah, I can have it. I can be it. I am it. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. It's a great thing to point out because, yeah, think about like every beautiful emotion that you experience, it's sort of generated within your own like mind, body, spirit complex, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Creating it within yourself. And so you may give that power away to objects or people
Mm-hmm.
that was created within you. And you always have the power to create it again and to carry that with you.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful reminder in relationships, even and like these dynamics. It's like you'll notice that people in the presence of them, they'll bring out certain aspects of yourself and can make you
Mm.
feel more alive. Well, you can carry that on for yourself beyond the relationship
Yeah.
when yourself, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And you like, yeah, exactly. And that's, it's kind of the other side of the shadow, right? It's like the golden shadow. It's like the beautiful qualities of yourself you project onto others.
Yeah.
So those are nice ones to bring home, really, because you just say, no, like I am that. And then you're embodying these qualities that you actually admire, but
Mhm.
you've projected out of yourself. Now the shadow work is a little harder because it's like shadow characters you've projected out because you didn't
Right.
want to see that quality in yourself, but we can bring those home as well. Yeah.
Right. And even, you know, right, if you want to talk about like what bringing it home really means and how that sort of
Hmm.
plays out for you.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, it's undoing the definition of separation is kind of the first. It's like relaxing the mind that's saying, that's my ideal partner that's over there, you know? So you have to undo the definition of you being one thing and the partner being another thing, which is kind of just like a relaxation of the definition to me. That's like a relaxation almost in the mind level. You just relax that definition. And then it's feeling the energy of that quality that you've been projecting out. So you could use words to describe it, like they have beauty, they have joy, they have love. Well, you're bringing those qualities back into your heart basically, and feeling it, breathing it in, seeing that I have those things, I have what I've projected out onto that. So for me, that process is really beautiful. It's like I'm owning these qualities that I've kind of divorced myself from. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful.
Hmm.
For Me, I would like describe it as, and I do think I'm on like the spectrum, and my mind sort of operates in certain ways, and it certainly operates on loops and hyperfixations and things. So,
Yeah.
um, my mind naturally just wants to look at every angle, every perspective, and then
Mm-hmm.
and then walk away with this like
Mm.
every perspective idea, like or understanding of something.
Mm-hmm.
But I do notice that when I'm having like difficulty, let's say with another person,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of it is really just getting a little too honed in on my own perspective and
Right.
not considering there's enough and really shifting more to
Mm.
their viewpoint of like what it
Mm.
might be like coming from their perspective.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, you can then relate a similar scenario that you've been in.
Mm-hmm.
Oof. You know, could have felt a similar way that they did, or, you know what I mean? You can get into their perspective a little bit and come to that, you know, whole and loving understanding that their
Yeah.
actions are really just coming from a place of right? Wanting to feel loved, connected, whole, complete, the same way that you're operating through life, they are.
Yeah. Yeah, that just reminds me of this morning when, I was working around some other people. And then there's this feeling like, as there's a relaxation of that separation, you kind of feel the field, and the field is experiencing through every body. So you can almost like directly experience that oneness. It's like, oh, the field is experiencing through Jonathan over there, and the field is experiencing through the neighbor over there. And then that feeling is just of, it's like defenselessness, really. It's like we're all just operating from the same field. And that feeling always relaxes my mind, because what's the storyline then? It's like, where's the tension? It's just not there. And yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Because uh yeah, it's interesting. What this is bringing up for me is this there's a creator on TikTok who she's latched on to a theory and is making a bunch of videos on it, and there's so much passion there and it's resonating with me. I'm like, I feel you, girl, because
Mm.
she's talking about the like divine feminine aspect of reality um being plasma,
Mm-hmm.
and that carries, right, that is the dynamic aspect of reality. It carries the intelligence,
Mm.
is moving, dynamic, and then you have like the masculine, awareness, watching quality. And like I'm like, yeah, that's resonating. Plasma. And then that
Yeah.
kind of brings it more into a tangible scientific study.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, sorry that kind of had a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like the sacred marriage of the masculine and the feminine. That's kind of exactly what that's exactly what I was talking about. Yeah. Even every object is fluid, really, in consciousness. It's like a steady arising phenomena for a time, like at the wheelbarrow, but it's all vibrating, and its relationship is with the whole field, with everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's like that plasma came in to like mold itself to like have the experience, right?
Hmm.
Of being the perspective, let's say, of Leah, you know?
Yeah.
But Peter is also made of the same plasma,
Hmm.
pretending to be separated, but they're because it's all plasma, there's an intelligence and energy, there, right? There's information that's being exchanged and that is accessible
Yeah.
at all times, but the awareness, right, is from this point of
Yeah.
view.
Yeah, the point and the whole, and the whole and the point. The wholeness and the point, and the point and the wholeness. And then from that, it's like that's that fluidity too, to just allow the body to be moved, because it's going to be kind of magnetically drawn to the places it needs to go. And for me, I mean, I think of it in terms of like a devotional thing, but I don't think you have to. It can be thought of as scientific as well. But the devotional thing for me is like every configuration of reality is relating to wholeness, is a way of putting it, you know. And that's like what gives it meaning. That's what gives it purpose. That's what gives it beauty, is its relationship to the wholeness. But then there's the wholeness appreciates every configuration of reality, you know. And to me, that's what starts to choreograph and shape our reality in new and different ways as we let go of the old structures, which are kind of like they're structured out of tension, but we can get more into our plasma flowing and just let it come into the shapes that are of service in that moment, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful. Because it is really part of the beauty is the like symphony that it
Mm.
creates, right? The flow of all these energies and how they're intertwined and connected. And
Yeah. Yeah. And this is another idea that is coming up, is like that it's already what's happening, you know, like we already have decentralized organizational power structures. Like that's already what's happening, but it just still looks like there's a guy in charge, you know, because that's how we're still choosing to see it. But in truth, it's already all just flowing how it's flowing, you know. We just don't yet trust it enough to really live that as the visual reality, you know.
E- Exactly. Because that is the reality. And the matrix is sort of coming in through that and creating this really like a pyramid structure within it.
Illuminati.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that is,
Yeah.
it's symbolic for a reason.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's nothing to be feared because all you have to do is see it for what it is, like a structure that's being created out of, right? This free flowing energy. So you don't have
Mhm.
to get into that structure, but within the structure is an illusion, is the matrix illusion that tells you it's all competition, that tells you
Mhm.
the roles that you need to play and
Yeah.
that you're in lack and all of those things. So all
Yeah.
that you have to do is not buy in.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course, within that structured illusion, there's a bunch of fear thresholds that as you stop playing, you'll meet. It's like, oh, I didn't think I was scared, but it's like, oh, it was fear motivating me, you know? And but as you relax out of those fear frequencies, and it is safe. I mean, that's as because as we've stepped through it, that's what we're learning. It's like every threshold I've stepped through, it's been safe, and I come out the other side feeling more free, more free.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because you are confined within that structure by fear.
yeah.
So that's where it ties into, you're battling your own demons always.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you buy into those fears, you're keeping yourself trapped and you're keeping yourself playing the game of competition and roles and,
Mm-hmm.
all of that. And
Mm.
it's time for all of us to start meeting each other outside of that system, right? So
Yeah.
that we can collectively overpower it.
And the other part of that is as we free ourselves from the system, we're still seemingly kind of playing a role in that system, right? For others. We know that we're not, you know, but we can't control how other body minds perceive us. So sometimes they're going to be projecting dream roles onto us. And really, the defenselessness of our own freedom is to almost just like allow that a lot of the times, but not allow it to change our definition of ourself. Sometimes we have to play these kind of strange roles for the other in order to show them that it's not true.
Right. Absolutely. To be on the outside, right, is we're really here to inspire other people to see that you can operate outside of that system, not to yell at everybody and fear monger, right?
Yeah.
Because you're only strengthening the system by doing that.
Mm.
And the people that are in the system, that serves its own purpose as well. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It's okay for that to be there.
Mm.
It is pushing people, think bigger picture, towards their awakening. That is why we incarnate into this experience, to have the difficulty to break through barriers
Mm.
and find ourselves. You don't want to take away that suffering. That's how these people are finding themselves. But you can operate out of the system yourself and be the example.
Yeah. Yeah, and then it's like we can bless them when they show up. But
Right.
it's like that level, that kind of blessing it's blessing yourself actually, because it's blessing them where you and them are one. So, and there's guidance in terms of how to relate in the moment, but it is that kind of detached blessing that to me is seeing my own strength, my own power in this moment as the free being I am, and holding that vibration. Yeah.
Yeah, because there's a tendency, and it's okay. It is coming from a place of love and wanting to help other people, but I remember being there, right, in that place where it's like you just want other people to see and to like understand. But
Mm.
that's not the way that this process works.
Right.
Yeah. And actually, if you continue, like you're perpetuating it all, if you continue to like look at people at, you
Mm.
know, not awake and, you know what I mean? Like judging them and the place that they're at, like we all are dismantling these systems and we're all, at different levels of doing that work.
Yeah. It's often that desire to change someone else's mind is actually coming from our own need to be validated. Um, and what we're not seeing there is we're, again, yeah, putting our mind into the box and lowering our own level of consciousness in order, like we're seeing them as a problem, basically. And
Yeah.
the reality is that there's no problem there. There is no problem. There's only love, really. So what are you
Yeah.
seeing? What are you seeing? You're seeing a out picturing of your own sense that something could go wrong, and then trying to fix it. Yeah.
Yeah. And also, um, just because someone isn't interested in this topic or looking at all of this through this perspective and angle, it
Right.
doesn't mean that that person doesn't have things to teach you. It doesn't
Yeah.
person doesn't have wisdom as well. So
Mm.
not separating yourself from people that aren't spiritual,
Mm.
because those are important interactions and you have just as much to learn from those people and they have just as much to offer you as you do them.
Yeah. So true. Yeah. And that's like that stepping into life as the teacher. If it's here for me. It's not here accidentally. Yeah. Life is my teacher. So if we can hold that level of respect and honor to every character in the dream, then that's how they'll seem to us. They'll seem like a great teacher instead of like that idiot who doesn't get it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and then, hey guys, this is how we come out the other end collectively together. So
Mm.
right? Because the goal is for all of us to start living more harmoniously, and
Mm,
it's gonna take those little things, like, how are we actually showing up for the people that are in our lives? Let's not get, um, a little too focused on how we're showing up for, like, the thousands of people online that, I wanna get this message to or whatever your
mm,
ideas about what it means to teach.
mm,
How are you showing up for the people that
mm.
love?
Yeah. I've been feeling this sense of a pull, really, of just being more engaged in my local environment. Part of that is the natural world, which is kind of like the root vibration of it, is like being engaged in this place on the planet. But it's also the people that are around me, and trusting that, like, just by showing up in that vibration of blessing, that I'm creating just harmonious interactions in ways that I don't frankly understand at all. We can't understand it, but we can know that our intention is totally pure in our relationship to whoever comes to us. And that's really it. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's, like, where energetically, like, powerful things happen
Mm,
and where you get to just relax into it and
mm,
where life becomes a beautiful play
mm,
and all the little interactions. You're not waiting for that big thing to come along. No, you're living this breathing
mm.
reality, you know?
Yeah. It's like this memory that we all actually have, that we're here to wake up, and that it's all coming together on its own accord, and we all have a role to play within it. And it is like an upward spiraling, where as you trust that, you'll start to see that the right people show up around you, and that it's all being orchestrated in ways that are way beyond the personal will can possibly see. But that is what's happening. Like, we don't have to understand the structure of it. We just have to trust, really, and show up. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, beautiful. Yeah, it's not about orchestrating it all and controlling it all. Yeah, it is naturally unfolding. Just get out of the way.
Yeah. Yeah, just like everything else in the universe works, right? The planets circle around the sun, and there's a great orchestration and order to it all. The galaxies and the big, 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 big. It's all the same thing. It's what's happening here in the human realm. It's atoms, it's molecules, it's all flowing intelligently. And it's actually our human hubris and arrogance that is kind of trying to gum it all up. But yeah, can't really ever, you know, truly do that. But it can kind of seem to change our experience into something else.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because also I want to say, like, the point, right? Yeah, it's coming to that awareness, this awareness, but then living from that
Mm,
awareness. So
mm,
it's not just everything is interconnected, I am one with everything,
mm,
or that I'm not really human and we're not really, you know what I mean? That is an aspect,
mm,
right? But, okay, we're meant to move beyond that collectively and all,
mm,
okay, come to that realization and then live from this
mm,
point and this understanding and, like, live from it's not denying your desires, living from your true desires instead of your conditioned ones.
mm. Yeah. Living that wholeness. Um, yeah, I mean, to me, that is the trust, but it is also, it's not putting anything outside of it, like this relationship is outside of it, or that's an unspiritual person, or that's an unspiritual event, or these are things you can get caught up in. Yeah.
Yes, or an unspiritual aspect of myself.
Right, right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Because I think a lot of people do get caught up in this.
Mm,
That is something that's confusing about spirituality,
mm,
and I think it's essentially because of religion.
Mm,
Spirituality and religion are not the same thing.
mm,
And I'm of the mindset that religion is black magic.
mm,
And so you should actually stop getting yourself tied up into that at
mm,
all.
mm,
It's often actually literally just flipping everything upside down on its head. So
mm,
you often want to look at the opposite and find the truth in that.
mm.
Um, Shoot, I forgot the point that I was making.
Yeah. Well, making things especially unspiritual, like
Okay.
painting them as not spiritual. Yeah.
Yes, and so along the lines of how it's a tool of black magic, it's a tool to make to make your thinking upside down and to keep you here in a
Mm,
competitive, conditioned, hating yourself and finding
mm.
yourself sinful and everybody else. I mean, that's religion is a tool to perpetuate this structure,
Yeah.
period.
Yeah.
Okay. And
It's
the systems that perpetuate that are also their hierarchical structures and systems that are perpetuating these
mm,
teachings. Um, Really, you're meant to tap exactly into your like inner, these are divine human desires and experiences that you're meant to have.
mm.
Now, when you're resisting this stuff, right? Um, that's you're creating a whole story. I mean, that's a trap, right? So, like, if you make it a thing, and we know this, like, right? This is in all the teachings. Like, when you make it a thing, you're creating resistance around it. You're, adding a whole story onto it. Like, you're creating your own prison.
Yeah.
You're
The
buying into the matrix.
the idea of becoming more holy or more pure, like I'm not pure already,
Yeah,
it's another thing. It's just another trip that you can go on.
it's
Yeah.
bullshit. It is a total trap. It is literally, it's a part of the conditioning that's out there to keep you small.
Hmm.
So it's just a matter of, right, not buying into that system, okay, that
Mm.
any part of myself is evil and needs to be fought off.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's you battling your own demon. You're creating that demon.
Yeah.
Buying into
Or the other side of it, like we were talking about with the perfect partner or the shadow character, it's the same thing as like I'm not Jesus, like I'm separate from Jesus. It's like, well, if those are the symbols that are meaningful to you, then bring Jesus into your heart. Jesus is in your heart. I mean, that's even what it says in Christianity, right? So own that quality as yourself. That's really it.
and separate the teachings of Jesus and what this figure may have been teaching or that energy and religion, because those are two separate things.
Right.
And so there is, um, embodying a Christ-like energy, which is really like embodying love. It's not about judgment, right? It's not about saying no, like this, you know what I mean, that I shouldn't desire these things or that other people should be acting a certain way, right? Those are not within the teachings of Christ. So these are two separate things. There's spirituality and there's religion.
Yeah.
And spirituality is all about an exploration, an openness, and allowing of
Mm,
these things and then coming to a deep understanding, right?
mm,
That um a lot of those desires are what's overlaying that desire underneath for connection. And you're bombarded your whole life with conditioning that tells you to desire money, fame, sex, to exploit other people, right?
mm,
Those are the bad things. not being in touch with your sensuality and wanting to be connected with others and, desiring a richness and earthly experiences. Hello, that's what you're here for.
Yeah.
Stuff, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the richness, that's the feminine
Yeah.
quality that you want to embody.
Mm.
It's the conditioning that you're lacking all these things, that you need them in excess, or you know
Mm.
what I mean, that the way that they're supposed to show up for you is twisted, is distorted. Those are the distortions, like that, the idea of like the, the way that we relate sex to like porn, like
Mhm.
that's not our true sensuality, right? That's not
Yeah.
a representation of what we truly are. So it's taking those things and distorting them. And that's what you want to step back from, is the distortion, right? The
Yeah.
around um, money and competition, right? Not that money is evil and bad. It's not that sex is evil and wrong, right?
Yeah.
It's distortions around these things.
Yeah, and then we become convinced that that's our true nature. Like if I was allowed to do what I wanted, I would just be like out raping and pillaging and killing, and it's only because I fight it every day that I become a half decent sorry sack of a human, you know. And
Yes.
it's, as we believe that, that's how it seems. But if
Yeah.
we want to, it's like, what is the truth, you know?
Mhm.
Like, do we have to create the truth through effort? No, you know, we don't have to create truth through effort.
No, and you can trust yourself. Like you can trust yourself.
Mhm.
So I used to be an atheist, and I used to just trip out on people that like felt so strongly that without God, that you would just be this immoral, murdering, raping, pillaging piece of shit. And it's like, I'd be
Yeah.
like, so I actually find myself caring a whole lot more about the well-being of other people
Mm.
than most any Christian I come across, you
Mm.
know? Like I love volunteer work, community work, you know what I mean? Like all those things ring true in my being, right? Not because I ascribe that to some outside religion or moral authority
Mm.
figure. That's in me. And so you can all trust yourself, that you can explore your desires and you're
Mm.
not going to turn into some raving lunatic.
Yeah. Yeah, it's coming to the heart of the matter, really, because we do all have goodness as our true nature, but we don't really get to see that until we relax out of those fearful stories about Satan and evil and
Mhm.
all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because listen, why do people buy into the structure? Because they're put in a competition, right?
Mm.
Like that puts you, it's forcing people, right, into a sort of mindset that just perpetuates this terrible oppressive matrix
Mm-hmm.
that, you know, that we're living in.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because I grew up in Christianity really, and when you're swimming in the water, you can't necessarily see the water you're swimming in. At the same time, it's not really any different than the matrix programming that anyone else lives in any other kind of, they have their own flavors, you know, but it kind of has the same underlying thing, which is like you're guilty is sort of the starting point, and then try to fix it is sort of the outcome.
Yeah.
And all of this struggle to try to fix it, try to fix your guilt, try to fix your guilt. Yeah. And there's different ways to try to go about that, but none of them really work. Yeah.
Yeah, no. And you know what it does is it breeds cruelty, because if you think, right, that resources are limited, you're willing to step on the next guy to get ahead.
Yeah, exactly.
Here we end up with this, right? Because you're willing to stand, right? You're willing to have more power and access to stand on someone else. And when you keep this idea that you're in lack, that this is a competition, okay,
Yeah.
that's end up. And so it's just by a lot of the time saying, okay, actually, like, this is I'm being brainwashed to desire some of these things. I could just ease up. I could just focus on connections with others or nature or my passions, right? A business, whatever it is,
Yeah.
and find everything that I'm looking for there. And we all start doing that. We all start connecting outside. That's how the world moves forward.
Yeah, the most essential flipping is seeing that you go from trying to get something to seeing that you actually have everything to give, right?
Yeah.
Because if you come to every situation as that, like that I have everything to give, that flips it on its head. Even if it doesn't like you're still within the same framework as, but you're no longer competing with anyone. And it validates itself every time you approach something with that, because you see it's like what I used to see as proof of my lack, now I see as an opportunity to extend my loving awareness. And so it validates itself. It's like, I can make this a beautiful situation for myself. I can make this a beautiful experience by extending this love that I am.
And it's an opportunity, yes, for creativity as
Mm.
well. Because when you're not looking at how you're told to do something, how it's supposed to look, right?
Mm.
But you have a will and a desire. How do you attain that? Let's get creative. How
Yeah.
do we live the way that we want to live,
Mm.
right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Not
because then you're not like boxing yourself out off from every potentiality that wants to flower forth. Just like nature, it always wants to come up with a new configuration, and they're all available to us. But we kind of say, "Oh, like can't do that, can't do that, can't do that." You know,
yes.
can't. Maybe you can.
Yeah. Even in I see it so much in like spirituality, right? Because you
Mm.
box yourself in. You say, okay, I'm going through this process. Now I'm spiritual, now I'm enlightened. And so then you put yourself in a box of what does it mean to be an enlightened spiritual person?
Right.
Now I go and play this teacher role. Well, let's actually get a little more creative than that.
Yeah.
Like, don't have to, like, how like, let's figure it out. I don't know. We're the first here, like, with the
Mhm.
opportunity to connect with each other, to have a ton of enlightened people and come up with new ways to see the world. And
Yeah.
we just connect with each other like instantly. That's the gift that reality is handing us all right now
Hmm.
to move forward.
Yeah. And we're kind of discovering it as we go. But
Yeah.
it's like as we let go of the conditioning, then these new opportunities flower forth
Yeah.
for, yeah, for joyful expression to extend itself, really, is how you could put it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like and that's where the fun comes online and you know what I mean? It's not that serious. It's just like, hey guys, like we did the work, right? And it's continuous, but like, clear the nervous system, find your path to that,
Mm-hmm.
whatever speaks to you,
Mm.
clear the nervous system, and then go play and see what comes out of it, right?
Mm.
It's that coming from these new perspectives, how do we create? What will come of it? Don't carry the old paradigm with you in this creation.
Yeah.
Drop, let's just play and see what comes about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And yeah, just remaining open to possibilities is what seems important here. Because I've also seen like sometimes I'll get excited, and then but then the mind will dust off the old programs and try to make something happen again, and well, it's fine, it is fine, and it's a learning again.
Yes, and it's okay to, like, lose excitement about something for a little bit and come back to it, or,
Yeah.
you know, something part way and not see it all the way through, or
Yeah.
to, you know, collide with someone and then go your separate ways. All
Mm.
of these things are okay.
Yeah. Where I notice it in myself is the spiritual ego has often tried to sort of detach from certain experiences by just kind of like going inward and being sort of unreactive, but it's getting more to a level of freedom, it feels like, where I can let the body show up and be in the sort of dancing, whatever it is, like someone's joking and then you're just like a constant tip for tap kind of reflection, flow of energy, and you don't know where it's going, and that's kind of the scary part, but it's also the fun and exciting part. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that's the creative part. Like, yeah, fun, exciting. I'm so glad that you said that though, because
Mm,
that's what I see so much of, and where I used to get all frustrated, whatever
mm,
now. You know what I
mm.
mean? But I did used to get frustrated. I would see that.
Yeah.
Um, in spirituality, it's like backing away from everything or trying to transmute everything away to where you're not actually in the life experience,
Hmm.
thinking that that's the point of this. And you know I that is an aspect, and there's I think that's an important part of the process, right? So that you clear everything
Mm,
away, then you can come into the world with this
mm,
like fresh nervous system essentially, right, where you're in touch with what resonates with you and what doesn't. But the point is not to just transmute everything away and keep the world out here and you out here and just say, "Oh, it's all not real." You're doing yourself a disservice, and that's the creator wants you to embody yourself completely, be
yeah.
in the world. That's what you came here to do.
Yeah. Because then you become like a link in the chain of wholeness, and usually that detaching and pushing away is, again, it's a defense, like thinking you've got something and you need to protect it, which of course is that same fear again of
Yeah.
control.
Yeah, it is. It is, I think, like a fear. Um, Sorry, I had a thought, but I was like trying to still hang on to it, but I'm like, no, no, it's gone.
Yeah. Well, it does feel like as you allow the body to come more into expression and into the daily play of life and relationship, it is still transmutation in a way, because the light starts flowing right into the point and into the interactions, and eventually what we're discovering is that it's all light, right? It's all light. So that process is showing us where we thought there was still darkness, but it disappears in front of us. It disappears in front of us as we go into it. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, I would say there's even more transmutation. I mean,
Yeah.
exponentially, right? And I think that's what I wanted to say is that for me, I think because I'm a mom, probably,
Hmm.
uh, it was difficult, or I didn't have a huge desire to like completely disengage. So I've been, you know what I mean, like throughout this process, like had this
Yeah.
like tie that just keeps me so engaged in the three-dimensional and with others. And so it wasn't really a choice to just hold the world out there and say,
Yeah.
like I have been engaged this whole time. I've also have the luxury of, and this is all in my charts I've been hyper fixating on,
Yeah.
my life has been packed full of experience. That is part of my purpose here.
Hmm.
And I mean, honestly, just to the freaking brim, with
Yeah.
experience and being in the world. And I can see how much, and because it was kind of a unique upbringing, like being like a street kid and stuff, was really like on the outskirts of society, not
Mm.
really buying into a lot of that conditioning, right? How much of my life I've really just been, embodying Leah, like fully.
Yeah.
Um, and then just a lot of trauma that like took me away from myself. But clearing that, and coming back to like that understanding of, oh yeah, like that this is what it's about. And I see that in my experience. Like I know what it's like to be in the world and living it fully
Mm.
from truth. And it's a beautiful thing, a beautiful way to be, like honor yourself in that way.
Mm.
So honor your fucking self. God damn it. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, it just feels good too, right? Like to notice all the little nuances of yourself and
yeah.
bless them, honor them, yeah, and be with them.
Honor it, love it,
Hmm.
get to know it, your essence. Um, and it's not about having an attachment to the story. So I think there's confusion there, and people
Right.
want to drop everything completely. Or you have people that have trauma and are holding on to their story, right? It's like one or the other, and it's like there's actually a balance.
Yeah.
Can honor and appreciate the story because that's what we're here to really. We are enacting a
Mm.
story. We're in a play. We're in the story.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful. Like um, for me, like I've been through so much shit, and I love that and appreciate that about myself. Hello, what the fuck? How many like I know, and it is, how crazy is it that it's actually in my fucking human design
Mm.
that I'm supposed to take my experiences and share them with other
Right.
people, right?
Yeah.
Because of the wisdom that comes from actually having the experience.
Yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's all like one big interwoven, I mean, a mystery, really.
Mm. Yeah, and it really is like the full embracing of it that does dissolve it as like a separation story because you see that it's just life like flowing into itself and interacting with itself, and that is the sacred marriage, like that is the undoing of the story in a way, but it's like through the full honoring of it, it sort
Yes.
of, yeah.
Yeah, because I'm not a victim to it. Like I was
Right.
blessed with this life,
Mm-hmm.
not a victim to it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where, you know, you want to make the shifts. You don't have to let it go completely. And if you want to, sure, go ahead. You want to start fresh, and that's, you have that option too, and that's great. Don't, but you can certainly honor the things that you've been through, and that's, I think, a beautiful thing to do.
Yeah, it's just you can't really ever push it away forever, right? Because it's always going to keep knocking, 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 knocking. Anything that you're pushing away as like a problem or,
Mm,
yeah.
that's right, exactly. Because you may just be right, like bypassing,
Mm-hmm.
and it's okay to the this is normal and this is a part of it to go through cycles where you feel wonderful and like, oh my gosh, I'm like flowing with the universe and carried by God. And then
Yeah.
you're like, what the fuck? You're thrown back in
Mm-hmm.
to the chaos of the world. That's what you're doing. That's what you're here for. It's a little dip, learn
Yeah.
more, experience more, like get in there and find the love in these experiences. And that's just,
Yeah.
you're thrown in and then taken out, and that's a rhythm, a natural rhythm.
It's a wash cycle. It's like a tide. It's like a, yeah. Yeah, and only yeah, the only solution is embracing it. That's the only solution. And it's yeah, it's not that the mind doesn't still throw up a fit once in a while and say this is too much to embrace, like I can't do it, you know. But it's just you can't escape it. That's the thing. So
No, you cannot escape it. And it's unfortunate that um there's a perception that you're gonna get to a point that you escape it when that's
right.
trying to do. It's actually just like allowing the process to take place, and it can become enjoyable
Mm.
even.
Yeah, because it is our service to the wholeness. I mean, we are the wholeness, and we're serving ourselves through creating a human experience.
Yeah, but
To yeah,
y- yeah, but you can treat it as a your your devotion and your service to the whole.
yeah,
To allow these cycles to play out and know that you are doing a collective clearing, that you are healing yourself and the collective.
yeah, yeah. And it's strange too because it does become more and more that you just don't really feel like there's much of a linear storyline at the same time.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you're pushing away any storyline either. It's just that because you're embracing the momentary flow of it all, there's not really like a past and a future so much anymore. Or it's
Right.
just say it's all right here. It's all here.
Yeah, it's don't carry the story into the moment and apply it to everything that you're experiencing in the moment.
Yeah, as a filter. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
As a filter, as a distorted like filter, you bring and you embody those stories as your wisdom and discernment, though.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, isn't that interesting? It's kind of like a digestion. You have to digest your stories and then you harvest, you get the nourishment out of them. You nourish the wisdom out of it. Yeah.
Oh, I really
Yes.
like that.
Mm.
Yes, and so think about when you sit and you do those meditations and you process those old traumas,
Mm.
and then, yeah, who you are afterwards, that sort of digested version
Yeah.
of, yeah,
Just
just
like a richer version of yourself and that digestion of you can feel it. It's like a nourishment of I don't know what your deepest self, I suppose, but also the expression as it comes through the nervous system becomes more refined and yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah. And I have, you know, approached it as a sort of devotional practice to the one true creation. Right? I
hmm,
know that by surrendering to these cycles and to this pain every time it arises, that I'm in service, because on the other side of it, I embody myself more truly. And that's what I'm here to do.
yeah. And we're so powerful in that regard. Like I know a lot of people have a lot of suffering, and then it becomes like, well, I can't surrender to this amount of suffering, you know. But it does just flow piecemeal, and you are where you are when you start the process, you know. And we start with these little nibbles, but it's like just accepting a little nibble is going in the right direction. and and we are so powerful in our ability to transform our experience. uh yeah, it really is true. It's it can all move towards love.
Yes. And it can come down to these very simple acts of, yeah, all I have to do is be here and to be in service, literally. All I have to do is be here. to allow these processes to unfold and really just breathe.
Yeah.
And how simple is that? Just breathe and allow. That's all that you have to do. And then on the other side, right? Action. Action. Now that you're, connecting with your true self, embody it in
Yeah.
action.
Yeah. And allow the cycles to continue. Trust that life brings you what you need. But it's like, this is like, the crazy thing is, it's the solution to like every problem.
I
And
know.
the mind hates that it's so simple, right? But it's kind of the only solution. So
Right. But it is, yeah, everything's holographic in that way that it can be applied. The wisdom can be applied to any situation.
yeah. Yeah, I just kind of feel like sitting here and weeping in a way. It's like not a happy or a sad weeping. It's just like, I don't know, just feels so present to my experience. And that, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It doesn't feel like there's a lot else to say about it, really.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
really be happy to sit in a bit of just energetic connection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.